Alrighty class, we're actually going to start this speech with a question for you. Who here can tell me what they think the most popular, most wide known, and most distributed and sold book is of all time? I'm not actually going to call on you. For a hint though, it is found in the back of most church pews. Yes, it's the Bible. The Bible holds the Guinness World Record of having an estimated 5 billion copies sold and distributed around the world. But not only is that impressive, it also can be found in over 2,400 languages. Now, since the Bible is no ordinary library book, we'll be discussing its origins and how the original Bible has come about to what we have today. In order to do so, we need to go back to 1500 BCE. BCE stands for Before Common Era, also known as BC, which is before Christ, okay? And now in 1500 BC or BCE, we have the Jews writing the Bible. Those were the primary authors of the Bible. There's quite a few of them, but anyway, we're not going to discuss that. The primary language for the Jews was Hebrew, so therefore they were using their language to write the Bible. It just makes sense, that's what you do. And then we fast forward, okay? So now we're in 200 AD, okay? AD stands for after death. What separates BC and AD is the death of Jesus Christ, okay? So in 200 AD, we now have the Jews, which primary language is now Greek, not Hebrew. That was the first translation of the Bible from Hebrew to Greek. It took roughly 1,700, 1,800 years in order for that to happen. So it was a pretty lengthy time in order for one translation, which was all written by hand. All of these facts are supported by the Ancient History Encyclopedia, the History of the World.org, and then the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay? That was the first translation. We then go to the next big translation, and the one that's most prevalent and why the 2,400 languages that we have now actually exists, okay? In order to do so, we need to fast forward into 2nd and 4th century AD. Again, AD is after the death of Jesus Christ. In this, which is supported by the Dead Sea Scrolls, we find the Greek Bible, because we went from Hebrew to Greek. Now the Greek Bible was then translated into Latin. The Latin Bible was used primarily by the church because they were the most educated and could read Latin. Many of the modern day, or many of the normal people, I guess you could say, did not have the knowledge in order to read or decipher Latin. Anyway, Martin Luther is actually the reason the big translation, I guess, spurred up or happened. Martin Luther takes the Latin Bible because he finds the church actually using the Bible for selfish ways. They find a corrupt church, they're using the Bible out of context, they're using verses that don't mean what they've been saying, and it's a lot of false teachings. So Martin Luther takes the Latin Bible, studies up on it, and himself translates the Latin Bible to German, so everybody in the town and everybody in that area could then read it and make their own interpretations on what they personally believe and walk with their personal beliefs of what they've read. Martin Luther was then named after, or that translation was then named after Martin Luther. So he has his own translation, which is all supported by the PBS.org and the Dead Sea Scrolls. Also the history of the Bible. Now, we're now going to jump to today. With what we have today, can be found in 2,400 languages. The first English translation was KJV, which is the King James Version, named after King James. And then we have, which is most commonly known as NIV and ESV, which is the translations that we can find mostly in America for English-speaking people and readers. So, yes, okay. And now, this is all supported by the History of the World Encyclopedia and the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now to recap everything that I've discussed with you guys today, we went from 1500 BCE, before Common Era, and had the Bible originally written in Hebrew, okay? Then we go to its first translation into Greek, which was in 200 AD, and then from Greek to Latin, Latin into German, okay, and that was translated by Martin Luther, and then from German into what we have today, the first English translation being KJV, King James Version, and then into NIV and ESV, which is most widely known what we have. Now, remember when I first said and opened up with the Guinness's World Record of having around 5 billion copies sold and distributed around the world in 2,400 languages? So the Bible holds that record, okay, but it also holds another record of it being the most wide known and wide sold and wide distributed nonfiction book. We don't have time to discuss that in today's speech, but in an upcoming speech, we will be discussing that topic and what we have as information supporting that. Thank you all.